The man who had once been Daniel Crane pushed away his empty plate. Although the hunger no longer gnawed in his belly, he was far from satisfied, a condition which had become familiar enough since he left his old life. He made himself stick to the basic necessities. It kept him under the radar. The waitress had left him a ticket for his meal. He looked at the amount on it and dropped enough bills to cover the ticket. He even left a tip, something he would not normally do, but his trip down memory lane had jarred him. He was uneasy inside and did not want to do anything that would make the people here remember him. Perhaps they were finally closing in. Was it possible that his instincts had picked up something he himself had not, causing him to react strangely? He returned to the bathroom, checking one last time for new shoes. He had no luck. He pulled a pair of empty water bottles from his pack and filled them at the bathroom sink. As he was heading for the door, he glanced at the newsstand. "Local man wanted for questioning" was splashed across the front page of the local paper, and he did a double take. His breath caught in his throat, and then he let it out. He had been mistaken. The headline read, "Election Results In." He had given himself a scare. Sometimes he saw that other headline, the one that they had written to catch him, in his nightmares. His mistake was understandable. A tiny bell on the door chimed as he went outside. The sun was beginning to tip towards the horizon. Great waves of orange, hues of pink, and a touch of purple were beginning to streak the sky to the west. The day had been a scorcher. The radio had said 103 degrees. Now a cool wind was blowing over the plains, and he felt it was cool enough that he could walk the road for a while instead of hitching. He preferred to walk whenever possible. It made it harder for them to track him. He stood in the parking lot, wondering which direction to take. After a minute, he decided he might as well follow memory lane. It was as good a direction as any other he could pick, since he had no goal beyond evading them. He started hiking in the opposite direction he intended to go, then looped around out of sight of the building. If they came asking questions, anyone who might have been watching him would point out that he had gone the other way, throw them off the scent. He probably would not walk all the way to Dallas. Someone would pick him up on the way. Once he was sure the convenience store was well behind him, he popped a pack of batteries he had palmed off the rack when he bumped it and reloaded his battered old headset radio. He tucked the spare batteries in a pocket and tossed the package away. It landed under a sign that read, "Don't mess with Texas," and listed fees for littering. He smirked and flipped off the sign. He fiddled with the tuner of the radio, flipping through the Amarillo stations until he found one that played classic country. He set himself a steady, even pace and began trekking through the grass off the shoulder of the highway. The music filtered through his mind, stirring up the old memories. Country had been playing in the truck as they set off. He wondered if he had chosen this station subconsciously, because it had reminded him of that trip. Daniel fidgeted uncomfortably in the cab of the truck. Although well suited to typing at a desk, his office clothes were less than comfortable in the truck. It had taken him 3 tries to climb into the cab when they left. His clothes caught or pulled, and he had to stop and rearrange them. Now they clung to him. The air conditioning in the truck was weak, and he was sweating profusely. Conversation between the two had been sparse. He did not really know what to say to the trucker. "We're about half an hour to Clarendon," Big Mike stated, startling him. "The spot, such as it is on the other side. I'm curious. What have you heard about it?" "My editor told me it was a radio phenomenon, most often reported by truckers, where they claim to pick up a radio signal in the dead air between 2 broadcast towers. I've discussed via phone the coverage of the 2 towers with the respective station managers, and depending on signal strength, there is a gap that varies 2 to 5 miles, where neither station is broadcasting. The station managers say that most likely what gets reported is a garbled channel. But I also talked to some people who reported experiencing the phenomenon. A retired trucker in Oregon, another in Utah. The guy in Oregon said he heard spooky sounds mixed with static. The one in Utah says he heard a voice calling his name. He said it whispered things, personal things, that no one else knew. Scared him so bad that he refused to drive the route again. Sounds like the same old story to me. I'd bet it was another trucker jacking with him over the CB radio. Sounds like a prank on rookie drivers. Tell them there's something spooky up ahead on the road, then follow them, or pull off the road and kill your lights and make funny sounds through the CB. It could be. I'm writing a series of articles on the subject of urban myths. I've checked several of the most notorious haunted houses in the country, and interviewed people who have encountered the supernatural. So far I haven't found anything conclusive, but my editor thinks the article series will go over well. You like writing? Yes, it's something that I've always been interested in. I'm not making much at it, but I think this article series might help me break through. How long have you been doing it? Well, I only graduated a year ago. The writing market isn't easy to break into, but once your name gets out there and you have some articles under your belt, then you can really make a go of it. His voice warmed as they talked. It was one of his favorite subjects, and the conversation carried them several miles. Step, flap, step, flap. The sole had come loose on one of his worn-out sneakers, dragging and catching the pavement. He stopped and sat down in the scraggly grass off the shoulder of the road, to dig through his bag. He had half a tube of school glue, lifted from a store somewhere. The brilliant colors of the sunset had faded from the sky. The moon washed the wide fields and long road in shades of silver. The sky stretched unbroken in every direction. The road and the fences that ran along it were the only signs of humanity he could see. For a moment he sat and looked around him, the stillness of the night seeping into him. He found the glue, mostly by touch. He removed his shoe and carefully opened the section where the sole had come apart from the shoe. He slathered a thick layer of glue over the sole and held it together. When the glue set enough to hold, he put the shoe back on. The glue by itself would not hold the shoe together another mile. He pulled the drawstring out of a pair of shorts from the backpack and wrapped it around the shoe several times, focusing on the thick section of foot just behind the toes. He hoped the shoe would hold together until morning. Then he might be able to find a thrift store or charity that would give him a newer pair. He continued down the road, remembering how naive he had been the last time he traveled this way. He had been lying to Big Mike. He had no editor. He had spoken to a friend who was an editor about the idea, and while his friend said the concept was interesting, he had not offered Daniel work. Daniel had been so sure that it would work, though, that he could write such a compelling series of articles, that he had taken out a loan to cover travel expenses and set off to investigate. He went to the haunted houses, talked to several supposed psychics. He had even checked out a tire warehouse in Amarillo that claimed to be haunted. He found nothing. Still, he took notes and tracked down new rumors. He had been certain if he wrote the articles, he would be able to sell them.